People of Earth, we come in peace.
Welcome to this neighborhood.
All of Central Iowa, welcome to Mac's World Live. Mac's World is your world. Every day we talk about the issues and topics that matter most to you. And as always, it's your voice we want to hear in Mac's World. So join the conversation by calling 515-244-0077. And now, here's the host of Mac's World Live, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, 7 minutes after 4 o'clock, 23rd day of February in the Lord's year 2016. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Welcome to Mac's World Live. That's M-A-C-S. My name is Mac. Mac's World Live. And by the way, we have our new, what do you call it when you're testing a website? Beta website. Up at 993 The Truth. So www.993thetruth. There's Mac's World, since we're the only live program.
I'm going to have to check that out. I was unaware. Cool.
Yeah, trying to get something local where we can put local content and stuff like that on there.
Absolutely.
Now it sends to your site, right?
But it should be my site has now been kind of, don't you have a station logo over here?
Yeah, let me expand it.
Yeah, because
yes.
So we just took the site that I work off of and then added station information and the station listening, and then also all the other stuff. So and then Chris is going to work on that to get more information. Like you could have a page, we could have a link to Caffeinated Thoughts, and then they could link over there. But that'll be our new website page, 993 The Truth.
I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
Very cool.
You know, we're coming along here. Just a little station from Boone a few years ago, and kind of walked up to the big city, kind of like John Wayne, and said, "Howdy, Pilgrim. Can we join the party?" So we did. And after making a couple people really mad, we did it anyway, and here we are. So we appreciate you listening. I was talking earlier that this radio station, it's just like some of the other radio stations you can listen to in this town. We have politics from all different views. We certainly have faith and a biblical worldview. The difference is I can say the name of Jesus as much as I want. When I fill in on other radio stations or get the opportunity to be on them, when I say Jesus, the phone lines light up and the tree huggers are all, there's those, darn it, I keep mentioning those tree huggers. The progressives get all upset because they don't think the name of Jesus should be said in a secular form. You know what's interesting is you hear sermons and we read Bible verses about the power of that name. There are really people out there that when you say that name, it drives them crazy. I mean, what was it that Jesus said to Peter about "Get behind me, Satan"? When he said his name, "You're Jesus."
No, he was trying to convince Christ not to be crucified, and Satan said, or God said to him, "Get thee behind me, Satan." And then he told him later on that Satan sought to sift him as wheat.
Because I'm just amazed at how many times that name, I'll be sitting in a book club meeting or something, and I'll mention Jesus, and I'll have these dark black eyes. You know how you see that picture in the dark and those eyes peek out and it's all the demons and the little minions? That's what happens, only it's bright light. I saw it in Ted Cruz's eyes. And all of a sudden the little black eyes are there, and they're, ooh. All right, speaking of Ted Cruz, let's make sure you know of the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line at 515-809-0993. And the studio line where it's your voice I want to hear at 515-244-0077. What you got there, Captain?
Well, we're waiting for another hot button.
Topic. Man, you can really blow that up. All right, so I wanted to have Brian Myers in today. Tom is gone for the second week in a row. Next week, Super Tuesday. And who did I invite? I invited the mouse to come in and play with the cat. Tom Henderson, the head of the Polk County Democrats, is going to come in here next Tuesday and talk about Super Tuesday. Because everything will surely be changed by then. At least that's my thought. What are you thinking about this? I mean, were you surprised that Jeb got out?
No. When you kind of had the feeling that if he didn't have a strong showing in South Carolina, it was over. And,
do you think he feels the same way about Donald Trump that Hillary Clinton felt about Barack Obama 8 years ago? I mean, Jeb was the guy. Jeb was going to get this nomination. They were going to fight through all the little primaries and the caucuses and the Huckabees and the Rubios, and some of those guys were going to float to the top and then float to the bottom. But by Super Tuesday, it was going to be Jeb Bush all the way. And now he's not even in Super Tuesday.
Right. Well, look, I don't think it's a stretch to say that everybody in the campaign has been completely turned upside down by Donald Trump over the last year. I mean, I don't think anybody saw this coming.
Nope.
And I think everybody's thoughts about how the election was going to pan out, or certainly the nomination, how it was going to pan out, everything has been turned upside down. Nobody saw this coming.
Well, a couple of things I heard over the weekend. One, obviously he had spent a lot of money. I guess he was down to about $12 million from $130 million.
Yep.
And that he did not want the embarrassment of losing in his own home state. One, because Trump was supposedly outpolling him and Rubio combined. So, part of the problem is they're making a big deal that Cruz has to win Texas, Kasich has to win Ohio, and Rubio has to win his home state to even be viable to the American voter.
And I think that's true. I think it's true. But getting back to your earlier point, Frank, look at the amount of money that Jeb Bush spent just in Iowa. This was a couple of months back. I wish I could remember exactly the date, and I don't. But I remember seeing the figures at that time. It was fairly late in the game. I'd guess it would be sometime in December. The numbers were $41 million at that time that Jeb Bush had spent in Iowa. During that same period, Donald Trump had spent $200,000.
Yeah, which isn't true. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trump.
See, Donald Trump is spending his own money,
right?
So he doesn't have to turn in a form.
By same token, nobody got the free media the way that Donald did.
Right. Exactly.
But any way you look at it, the return on investment, if you were a Bush supporter, whether you were sending money to the super PAC or whatever it is you were doing, your return on investment was just like zero.
Yeah.
$41 million.
Yeah. Mary Kramer. You remember Mary? She was a state representative for many, many years.
That's right.
Mary and her husband sat next to us at our caucus. And Mary has been a strong Jeb supporter. She was a strong 43 supporter. She was a strong Bush Senior supporter. And it was sad to see her. Now, I don't mean sad as in deprecating. I mean sad as in I really felt for Mary because she really thought Jeb Bush was going to be the next guy. And until Donald Trump walked in, all he had to do is get through Iowa and the Huckabees and all that, and he was probably sailing.
Oh, the other thing that I also heard that I forgot to mention is they've changed up some of these winner-take-all states. And supposedly one of the things that they changed, they said to kind of cater to Bush, was they made Florida a winner-take-all state. So you wasn't going to get proportional delegates in it. So if
Rubio wins Florida, Jeb gets nothing.
That's right. Yeah. And Jeb did not want the embarrassment of getting nothing in the state of Florida.
All right, here's our next hot bud question that I want you to text in on the Service Legends Truth Text Talk line. 515-809-0993. Should Barack Obama be allowed to nominate Scalia's replacement? Should Barack Obama be allowed, because it's an allowed, Okay, it's an allowed. The Republicans in the House and Senate will have to okay that. And breaking news from the New York Times said Republicans in control of the Senate Judiciary Committee say they will refuse to consider any Obama Supreme Court nominee. And if I remember right, the head of that Judiciary Committee is none other than Mr. Grassley.
That's correct.
Do you agree with the Republicans in Washington to not allow? Because here's what you know what he's going to do, don't you? He's going to wait until they're in a recess, and then he's just going to appoint him. He's going to do it with his phone and his pen. All right. 244-0077. That's the phone number in studio. Who's this? You are live in Max World. Paul, how are you?
How you doing today?
Good. Nice to hear from you. I don't know what a day would be like without hearing from Paul.
Well, my radio's been down, so I haven't really called in much.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. It's back and hooked up now.
So should Obama be allowed to make that Scalia nomination?
I think he should be able to do whatever he wants. He's in his lame duck area. The only problem is that one of the small things was brought up about maybe about a month ago, is that the Congress are going to recess just before he leaves office. So if he nominates somebody, what I bet he'll do is he'll hold off until they go into recess.
Yeah.
And then he'll just put him in there, and they can't pull him out after that because they're recess.
He'll make a recess appointment.
Will Congress say, we're not going to go on recess this year. We're going to stay all the way through until it's done.
Okay, Paul, talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. What does that look like? What has to happen for the Congress to not go into recess over the holidays?
They would have to actually say, hey, vote on it themselves and say, we're not going to leave. We're not going to leave our office. We're going to stay here to make sure that the president will not do or finish off what we don't want him to do.
All right, Paul, you hang on. We're coming into a break. Brian Myers is my guest. He's the president of Madrid, Iowa. Bob Monster at the Cat in the Hat is watching your Service Legends Truth Talk text line at 809-0993. Frank is producing, and I'm J. Michael McCoy, and I just thank you for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on The Truth.
Northern Lights Pizza's amazing garlic butter makes amazing breadsticks. Now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 21 minutes after 4 o'clock, 4:21 in the afternoon. I was just responding to a text from one of my listeners, Wendy. I said earlier that if you ever hear an advertiser on this station and you go in and do business with them and you find that they're not, they don't have credibility. Integrity. And I said, I want to know about it. So she took that invitation and told me about somebody that she went to do business with who we had on the radio. And we removed him from the radio last summer because we found that he was not doing what we needed him to do to our good Christian listeners.
Wow.
And so it's people like Wendy that help us understand who treats them right and who doesn't treat them right. And if people are afraid to advertise on this station because they have to treat people right, then just mosey on down the road. I don't need you. Not that important. If you think you can come in here and hightail up a bunch of Christians and tell us that you're good and you love Jesus and then treat us badly, no stupid on this forehead. It isn't going to happen. All right, 244-0077, that's the number that Paul's on. We also have the Truth Talk text line. And the question is, do you think that, well, what's the question? What is the real question? Because I said it wrong up front. Barack Obama has the right to nominate somebody.
Correct.
But as long as the Senate is in session and they can vote no, then he can't put in a nomination without it being okayed. Is that right? Did I say that right?
Right. He can't put it in. If they're working on it, I'm assuming that if they're working on it, then they can recess and still be working on it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't think they can. I think once they go to recess, he can put a recess appointment in. Now, you were saying that's never happened?
Well, so far as I know, and maybe the listeners can correct me here if I'm wrong.
They will.
But so far as I know, it would be unprecedented for a recess appointment to take place on the Supreme Court.
Paul, you're smart on this kind of stuff. What's your take on that?
I believe that it has happened before, but not on the Supreme Court. They had put appointments in other places. The judicial, I think, had done it once, and I think it was with a Republican president, I believe. But as far as the Trump issue and Bush, Trump was just there to make sure that Bush was not going to get the nominee by whatever means. And he made Bush look pretty bad several times on television by frustrating him or saying certain things to make him almost apologetic without any good response. He wanted to show him as a weak presidential candidate.
And he did.
Oh, yeah. And he's working on the process of going through the remaining people that are left. The other people to get out of the way was no problem. Cruz is stepping on his own toes on this process, so I'm waiting for him to fall out of the limelight here pretty soon, just because he started here in Iowa and all this other stuff.
See, I see Cruz going all the way to the convention in August. I don't see him jumping out of this race at all.
The Congress is supposed to advise and consent, and I'm kind of with Paul. I think Cruz's campaign will self-implode.
Really? Okay.
It will toward the end. If it makes it all the way to the convention, for example, because Trump will go third party. He'll keep saying third party all the way through the whole process. If he goes that route, it'll cause a lot of this to implode on itself.
Well, the other thing is, guys, take this into consideration. They're talking about the Reagan Democrats again, like that's a potential real thing. He could get as much as 20% Democratic vote. Could possibly, I've asked this question out loud, what state did Romney win, or what state did Romney lose that Cruz could win? And I would suggest that possibly a state like Michigan, a state like New York could be in play for Trump.
Well, a week from today is Super Tuesday, and that's going to clear the deck for a little bit. Now, let's go back for a moment to our Truth Text Talk line with Service Legends, and the question is, do you think, so I guess the question is, do you want the Senate to stay in session instead of going to a holiday recess to vote down any nomination Barack Obama makes to replace Scalia?
Well, again, I don't even think they have to do that. They're obligated. Grassley is obligated at some point to hold hearings. I mean, the ordinary course of things, that's the first step. Mm-hmm. And as of today, Grassley is invoking what he refers to as the Biden rules.
Yeah.
And he's saying,
right,
we're not going to move forward with any hearings.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, anything that would happen after that Obama or the Democrats would try to do after that, I think would be unprecedented, once again, at the Supreme Court level.
So if I understand it correctly, it was 1992. President Bush was leaving office.
H.W.
Yeah. And Clinton was coming in. Biden was the head of the Judiciary Committee, and he would not allow President Bush to name a replacement on the Supreme Court. Instead, it carried over, and Bill Clinton got to make that nomination. Is my history correct on that, Brian?
I think you're right. Certainly, you're right with regard to the argument that Biden was making.
Right,
yes.
Right. I know about the argument. I'm not sure what the outcome was.
Okay.
Here's a chat. I've got a few chats here.
Okay, good.
Excuse me, not chat. Text line.
Service Legends, Truth Text, Talk Text line.
I'm tripping over myself here.
Say that quick.
A nominee cannot fill the vacancy without a vote of confirmation from the Senate, so it does not matter if Obama nominates a justice during a congressional recess. Okay?
All right. I'm listening. I'm not sure about that.
That's one.
I appreciate the input, though. I just...
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all right. So if that texter is correct, then there's no such thing as a recess appointment. Or did I hear that wrong? This is like 8th grade conversation for me, and I'm still in the 6th grade.
That's what he's saying. Because you were saying that if they vote no, he can put somebody in during recess.
I'm not saying Obama wouldn't try it, and I think the Republicans ought to be highly aware that he might try it. But I think it would be unprecedented doing it to a Supreme Court nominee in recess.
But why would the Senate even go into recess then? Why take that chance that he would do that and cause that fight?
Well, again, that's what I'm saying. They would have to be ultra vigilant to not allow that to happen, because I think he would... Listen, anything he'd done would take a 2-year fight through the court anyway, so he don't care what he does.
Yeah, he'll
be out of office by the time it ever lands in the court. So I wouldn't put it past him to try it. I mean, this is the same guy that was going to mint $1 billion coin or $1 trillion coin.
But still, Frank, you'd have to say this would be nuclear war. I mean, if he did that, if he did what you're suggesting, again, it's completely unprecedented. I mean, this is a nuclear option at that point.
Well, yes, but we were also told it was a nuclear thing to mess up the filibuster rules of 60 votes, et cetera, and then they passed Obamacare on a simple majority. And none other than good old Uncle Joe Biden in the basement said, well, we'll rule the day because we won't be in power forever. Every once in a while, Joe Biden says something smart out of his mouth, and, Democrats won't rule forever.
Bob, what else do you have from the Service Legends Truth Tech Talks line?
One here saying tree hugging is forbidden in China. I thought you might want to know about that. And no, a sitting duck POTUS should not be allowed to do that. But I think he can. We discussed the allowed.
I think you're exactly right.
He can still do that. And then also, does it scare you that it could come down to Trump versus Hillary or Bernie?
Yes. In a word.
I
think it signals the end of the republic if it ends up between Trump and Sanders.
Oh, well, the Clinton machine, superdelegates will not let that happen.
I agree.
But how would you like to be a millennial and you, for the first time or the second time in your life, have been able to vote, and you decided that Bernie was your guy, burn, baby, burn, and in the end, the nomination is stolen from him by superdelegates. Because if I'm a millennial and you tell me, I know you got the most votes, I know you got all the delegates, but see, Clinton had these 276 superdelegates, and so she wins. I'd never vote again.
But those young people would likely sit home. So she can't. They can't do that, or they would blow up their own party.
Well, they'll do that. Hillary Clinton is going to be the nominee. If the FBI does not indict her, she's going to be the nominee on the Democratic side.
By the way, does Tom still think that she's going to get indicted?
Yeah.
He's confident?
Well, Tom believes in the letter of the law, and there's no way she should not be allowed to get away with what
Brian,
she's done.
Monica Crowley is saying that the White House and Hillary Clinton is in negotiations because they think an indictment's coming down the pike.
No, I know she's been supporting everything that Tom's been suggesting for months.
She's been hugging Obama like you don't want to talk about tree hugging. She's been hugging Obama's leg like a tree.
But I'm still very skeptical that an Obama Justice Department is going to indict the apparent nominee for president of the Democratic Party.
Well, I hear you, but if the FBI gives recommendation to that, and the American people see that, boy, that's gonna be a cover up of biblical proportion.
Yeah, but they've done it already. I mean, let's talk with our tinfoil hats on for just a moment, can we?
You mean we weren't?
Don't
already?
We always?
How are we going to know the difference, Mac?
Well, how did Scalia's death go without a formal autopsy? Somebody help me understand how a sitting Supreme Court justice dies suddenly away from home in one of Barack Obama's biggest supporters' ranch in Texas, and his death is verified by phone?
Well, look, I think it was really foolish. I do not believe there was a conspiracy here, okay? Just saying.
All right.
But I think it was really foolish that the people in charge there didn't have sense enough to say, you know what, under the circumstances, let's go the extra mile, do what we have to do to remove any semblance of cover up or
right. I agree.
I mean, what would it have hurt? Although I will say this, I did also understand that the family requested that no autopsy be done.
It's called being above reproach, and they just left a stinky, foul taste in everybody's mouth.
Well, when we come back, we're going to take a break here. When we come back, I have not done this yet, but I think now's a good time to do it. I have, from a very, very credible source, a story on this. Do I think it will ever come to light in the media? Probably not. And that's just such a sad state of affairs of the industry that I have given my entire life to, and that is journalism with integrity. But there's a writer who has written a piece who has some information that we should be able to track down and find out whether it's real or not. And part of it is, guess who was one of the last people to see Scalia alive? You'll never guess. We'll talk about that when we come back. 515-244-0077. That's the studio line you can call. The Service Legends Truth Text Talk line is 515-809-0993. It is your voice I want to hear in Mac's World. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Yeah, you and you and you. Oh, you too. Right here on The Truth.
Another text.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live. Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rock and Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for their opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rock and Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza. Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common, everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
.38, 22 minutes before the top of the hour, live here on The Truth, 99.3, The Truth Network. My name is Mac McCoy, J. Michael McCoy. My friends call me Mac, and this is called, excuse me, Mac's World. Longtime radio running program, new on this frequency about 4 years ago, new into Des Moines last July. So if you're thinking you're doing a deja vu by going, Mac's on the radio in the afternoon again? What are we getting Skip here? Getting some sunspots? Well, Bradshaw's not here, but I've got my own problems with Frank. So we do have all opinions offered here on this radio program. And today we're talking about two very important things. One, we are having a mock, no, not a mock. We're having a last-minute election in Madrid, Iowa, to elect the new president of Madrid. And Jill King just called in, and her husband Randy live in Madrid. You have 2 votes.
Well, that's great.
And you live there, right?
I'm out in the country, so I'm outside of city limits.
You're not in the city limits.
Yeah, so we'll have to have some sort of constitutional crisis to make sure that I'm in a position to accept being tapped on the shoulder by the Blue Fork.
What if all of a sudden the dog catcher died mysteriously without an autopsy?
That would be bad.
That would be bad. And then I could come in and appoint a new dog catcher, and that would be you. And then you could then be president.
Wait a minute. Time out. I didn't say that I wanted to be dog catcher.
Well, don't get confused on the titles.
Well, actually, I want to be dictator. But
dictator?
A dictator.
You and Donald Trump.
I want to be the dictator of Madrid.
How many people live in Madrid?
Maybe around 3,000. I don't know. Something like
really?
That. Yeah.
You would rule like a over the peasants?
With an iron fist.
All right. The European Times is a very interesting publication. Who would we compare it to here? The European Times takes a look at things that are going on around the world with an unbiased worldview. It's not a biblical worldview. It's not a democratic worldview. It certainly doesn't favor one party over another. Mostly does lean a little conservative or conservative. But the European Times is known for coming up with stuff that a lot of people want to balk at. You know who their latest success story was? Snowden. It was the European Times that discovered that Snowden had gotten all this information from the United States, and the United and
they broke that story.
They broke that story,
Wow.
and they were going to hold it against Snowden. No, wait, back up. Nobody knew that Snowden had done what he had done, and everybody in America that reported it, they were blah, blah, blah. That couldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. And then the European Times came out and said, wait a minute, this is the real deal. It was the European Times that broke the story just a year and a half ago that that plane, in fact, was probably taken down by Syrian rockets, the Russian plane. Okay, so sometimes these guys get it right. Okay. This is a story they released 2 days ago, and I'm going to try to read this without a lot, because they go into a tremendous amount of detail, all right? Basically, here's what they're saying. According to the report, on February 11th, both President Obama and Justice Scalia were at Joint Base Andrews, so Andrews Air Force Base, at the same time, scheduled for two separate U.S. force flights. The first taking President Obama to Los Angeles, the second taking Scalia to a southwestern regional airport in Texas by the Mexican border, which is where he went to Poindexter's camp. While President Obama was scheduled to depart on one of U.S. Air Force One's Boeing VC-25, in other words, Air Force One, the report continues that Scalia's flight was scheduled to go aboard a private Gulfstream. On a Gulfstream that is the U.S. Air Force designation for a fleet of someone very important. Not the president, but somebody very important. Now, as you know, there are always jets that fly alongside of Air Force One. Air Force One is not a plane. It is a designation to where the president is on. Those jets escorted Scalia's Gulfstream into Texas. They did not go with Air Force One to Los Angeles, where the president was supposed to be. The president did not arrive in public in Los Angeles, as he was supposed to, later showed up in Los Angeles. Just prior to these two U.S. Air Force departing from Andrews Base, the assets assigned to, I'm repeating myself now, the assets, the jets, monitoring top American political and military figures, noted a discrepancy from normal protocol when Justice Scalia's 3 U.S. Marshal Services did not transfer to Air Force One. Instead, they were transferred to the U.S. Secret Service. Who has the U.S. Secret Service by his side at all time? President Obama. Now, this is a huge story, and they have lots and lots and lots of details. I have not been able to confirm anything. In fact, quite frankly, I'm nobody to be able to confirm anything like this. But you know through digital tracking that we know exactly where planes are, vehicles are, whatever. The two jets that escort Air Force One, which again is not the designation of an airplane, it's the designation of what plane the president's on. We learned that from that movie. What was that movie where they Air Force One?
Yeah,
that one.
And you know there's two separate Air Force Ones to divert potential attacks. Mm-hmm. So the attacker doesn't know which one potentially the president's on.
Right, but that doesn't have anything to do with this, because the other plane was not an Air Force One. It was a Gulfstream Secret Service plane. Now, if this is confusing me as much as it probably is anybody listening, I'm not saying this is a fact. I'm saying that if I backtrack, if I start with the fact that there are 6 huge cases that the United States Supreme Court is going to hear, 2 of them are either going to uphold or throw out some pen and phone stuff that Obama did. One is on immigration, and the other one is on, what's the other one on, Bob? We had that in here. There were 6 cases, one in California. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like the fact that Scalia did not have an autopsy. And Bob, you worked in DCI forever and ever.
Yep.
Even you thought that was just bizarre.
Yeah, just because of who the man happens to be.
Right.
Because if you look at it, if it was not a Supreme Court justice and somebody that was 79 years old and his doctor said he had all kinds of problems, dies in his sleep at his home, probably wouldn't order an autopsy. Okay, just for anybody else other than somebody of that importance. But I think that the fact that he was a Supreme Court justice should, to me, means that, hey, let's look into it. I mean, look at all of the conspiracy with Kennedy. You know,
oh, yeah.
I mean, look at all of that.
I know who killed Kennedy. That was Johnson. I'll just bet you anything. When I go to heaven, God's going to show me that was JFK or that was LBJ. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's probably Elvis.
No, Elvis liked JFK.
No, Bob, I was wondering, is it possible that they were moving in the direction of an autopsy because they realized this is good protocol to do that, and then the family stepped in and said, don't do it? Is that possible, Bob?
Sure. The family does have, some pull in that matter.
Say, though?
Well, that's my question.
Usually, if there is a suspicion, meaning that if somebody suspects foul play, then the legal system would overrule them. But evidently, there was no suspicion of foul play, according to what we've been reading, but you can't rely on everything we read. But that the law enforcement that happened to be there determined that everything looked normal.
By the way, Bob, who were those law enforcement folks? Were they county? Were they?
Yeah,
what were they?
They didn't specify.
No, I can tell you, it was a county justice of the peace that actually signed the death certificate, and she was told by a policeman on the ground that he looked dead to her. To him. And so she signed the death certificate. We're coming back. We'll be back right after this. Thanks for listening to The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Rockton Prevention is celebrating 25 years of creating a caring community. We want to say thank you to the tens of thousands of Rock High School mentors that have carried our message of health, love, and encouragement to over 1.5 million children, teachers, and parents. Our mentors teach children methods and skills to prevent bullying and drug use. Thank you to all the school administrators, teachers, and counselors for the opportunity to serve you. Rock on, fair citizens. Rock on. This is Pat McManus for Rockton Prevention, the Richard O. Jacobson Foundation, and this station.
Northern Lights Pizza, your home of the tasty crust. Our garlic butter sauce now available in 12-ounce bottles at Northern Lights, Hy-Vee, and Graziano's.
Northern Lights Pizza.
Hi, my name is David Burrier, your Hope Coach. I host a live weekly talk show called I've Been There every Thursday afternoon at 5:30, right here on webcast1live.com, and on my weekly radio program Saturday mornings at 10 on Truth Network 99.3 FM. I interview common everyday people who have survived incredible life challenges and who testify to God's faithfulness in the midst of their storms. So join me as we bring a message of hope and encouragement. Everybody needs hope. I know, because I've been there.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast 1 Live.
Ten minutes before 5 o'clock. You know, this radio station is guided by the hand of the Holy Spirit. It is through him that we do what we do, every program. I don't want you to think for any minute that we're trying to be gossipy or do anything that isn't biblical. If that didn't come from the European Times and it was just something out there on Facebook, I wouldn't have repeated it. And there are people who are much smarter than I in this room, like Bob, who thinks it's just fishy. United States Supreme Court Justice dies away from home in a different state. Nobody inspects the body except a policeman, not a medical person, and the death certificate is signed. Therefore, the President of the United States, who is a lame duck, does have a chance to nominate the deciding vote, the twisting vote in every case. So many times, Scalia comes down to be the one. I don't like conspiracy theories. I don't like to be thought of as a person who thinks about conspiracy theories. I don't chase rabbits. But I just want us to think about that. I just want us to think about that. All right, speaking of thinking about something, I would ask for your prayers tomorrow. My wife, who was in a really bad accident about 4 months ago, has been going through physical therapy to try to heal a foot, and it has not worked. And so she's going under the knife tomorrow morning, and she's going to have 2 incisions made in her foot with a plate and 2 screws. And I've never had this done. I know there are people who've had this kind of stuff done, but Mrs. Mack, you know, this isn't her bally wax. This is not her thing, going under the knife. This is only the 3rd time in her life that she's ever had to go under the knife, except for, you know, bearing children. So I would ask that your prayers be with us. Tomorrow, Tamara Scott is coming in, and long and behold, guess what, Frank? She wants you here. But you don't have to be, because I know you've got an opportunity to do something different tomorrow. But she just texted me and told me to let Bob and Frank know that they're welcome to be on the show.
Well, that is very nice of her. But let me mention something that I just found about Justice Scalia. I can't validate this as being anything truthful, but it says, shot down climate change fraud, involved in Senate-level discussions how to arrest Hillary, vigorously opposed Obamacare, involved in Pentagon-level discussions on how to arrest POTUS, perfect bill of health, no autopsy. Yep, died of natural causes.
Is that the Onion you got that article from?
I'm not sure what the
source.
I'll open that and see if I can find the source. It's Conservatives Against Obama's Liberal Agenda.
Yeah.
There's an objective source.
Yeah, I would say that's not very objective. But so Tamara Scott will be here tomorrow. I don't know what other guests she has coming in, but Tamara's a good fill-in. And if for some reason my wife needs me at home, beyond that, you won't see me. Well, my job is to be with my wife. So, and she just, you know, maybe none of us are good patients. CJ does the best job she possibly can, but when this last few months have just been horrible for her. She can't put any weight on her left foot. She can't walk. She has a cane. Before that, she had one of those little knee scooters, you know. So, and, you know, with, you know, when you are put under, Bob, you help me out here. You're the expert. When you're put under, I've heard the phrase, you're half dead. When you're put under by, what do they call that?
Anesthesia.
Anesthesia.
Yeah.
So they can because they just don't localize this on her foot. She's out.
Right, because they don't want you to be, you know, feeling any pain.
Yeah.
So you've got to be just there so they can do what they need to do without you feeling it and jumping.
I've heard before that, you know, well, what did they die of? Well, they died of surgical complications. What does that mean? They didn't do well on the anesthesia. The dope.
Yeah. Well,
it's still a pretty rare thing, though, isn't it, Bob?
Yeah, it's pretty rare. They check. They always ask you the big questionnaire: are you allergic to anything? You know.
Oh yeah, she's been through this.
And
Same
they check.
hospital.
They check all of that, and to make sure that it usually is okay and fine. But I hate to say it, but you know, our medicine kills a lot of people.
Yeah.
and it's okay. You pay the doctor and whatever to help you, and they give you drugs, and you die. I'm not trying to be funny, but
Bob, that wasn't a good thing to say right now.
But many
No, but I
people
understand.
overdose, and they mix drugs, and yet they're not sure what they took.
Sure.
And that's a big problem.
Sure.
It's a big problem.
Listen, Mac, if it makes you feel any better, seriously, I've been under the knife a number of times the last 10 years and had, generally speaking, some really, really good experiences relative to anesthesia. So you just tell CJ that.
All right. Well, she had her gallbladder out about 2 years ago, and she did okay with that. And then she had some other surgery, lady stuff, a few years ago, and she did okay with that.
Yeah.
But it's the recovery that's just going to really suck for her.
Yeah, that's going to be no fun, I'm sure.
She's not going to be able to put any weight on her foot, which means she's going to have that little scooter, that knee scooter. Yeah. She's not able to get that in and out of her car. So that means that I'm taking her to work every morning and picking her up after work, which good thing it works. My schedule allows that. But anyway. So the good news, you don't have to listen to me tomorrow. You can listen to Tamara Scott and Frank and Bob and whoever. Brian, you're welcome to come in. Jill King is nominating you for dictator.
Outstanding.
She thinks that Madrid needs a dictator.
Outstanding.
Way too long and really lame politics over there. And then she thinks that maybe we ought to take all of the Syrian detainees and put them in Nebraska. And I'm not so much for that because I have friends, and that's a good state. Now, if you want to put them west of Kearney, I'd be okay with that. Maybe we could just build a big wall around the panhandle of Nebraska and put all the Syrian refugees there just for 2-3 centuries until we just know they're safe.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the, what do you call it, Gitmo.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. Did you hear what the other thing Obama did today?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he's going to shut down Gitmo, and the detainees that can go to other countries will go, but those that no other countries will take will go into our United States prison system. So now what you have is ISIS who wants to come in and release those prisoners, and they'll attack those bases.
And proselytize our inmates.
Oh, I don't know. Isn't he just really you and I are about the same age. Isn't he just really the worst thing we've ever seen?
He is. And you can see what he's doing. He's nearing the end of his term, and he's doing his best to finish up his agenda.
All right. Bob, thanks for being here today.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for hanging out with the lovely Tamara Scott tomorrow. It'll be a good show. And thanks for producing, Frank. And you just go do what you need to do tomorrow. Don't bother Tamara. You got another huge revenue stream you can get tomorrow. So.
10-4.
And I'll give you a hint. It has something to do with being freaky fast. All right? For those of you at home, I always ask you this at the end of the show, and I'm going to ask you today. I'm probably never going to stop asking you. You hold a resentment to somebody. And you think for some reason you're going to hold that resentment and it's going to hurt them, but it doesn't. It only hurts you, and it hurts the sunlight of the Spirit. It hurts that Holy Spirit from really impacting you in a high level. So tonight, forgive. Offer forgiveness. Because as you forgive, remember, as you forgive, that's how you'll be forgiven. I'll see you in church.